Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So, over the last couple days, it's been definitely a rough ride around the crypto market, as you guys are probably all aware. But it wasn't just crypto, it was also traditional stocks. The markets have been down significantly, which definitely causes a big shake throughout the entire financial ecosystem. And when we really think about what's been happening over the last couple days, we haven't really been seeing a lot of bullish price action to match the bullish news. If you guys are aware, we have been seeing great news every single day, piling up. The SEC dismissing massive amounts of cases. And at the same exact time, we have a little bit of a mix in there of geopolitical tension through the trade war that is really kind of being pushed by Trump. And it's causing a little bit of a mix in the markets, right? There's some bullish news, but then there's also the big issue that is panicking the markets, causing, buyers and even sellers to act impulsively. And right now, as we really look at the crypto market, we are bouncing back a little bit. I mean, Bitcoin is up about 3%. We're at 80, almost 5K. Ethereum still sitting pretty at about roughly 2,200. XRP still sitting down around like $2.16. On the 24-hour span, there is some green across the board, which is pretty good to see. But let's just be honest here. A lot of these projects are just bouncing back off of their lows. In the last 7 days, there's not a lot of green across the board here. And this is because of what's been happening around the market. Now, if we go over here, this was the big headline back on the 21st. This is when the big sell-off really kind of started. And then it got accelerated throughout the week as we did start to see a lot more information coming out about the tariffs, and also the headline articles didn't help as well around China and them bouncing back against the tariffs, saying like, hey, listen, we're not going to do this. If we do this, then we're going to have some issues here. And again, it's just all geopolitical tension, and when you see that, people immediately think the worst. Now 927 billion was wiped out of the stock market back on the 21st. And this is the headline from today, or at least earlier today, which is over 825 billion was added to the US stock market today. Again, this sounds bullish, right? But the issue here is that it's Friday. Okay? So the markets did close. They didn't close too bad at all. I have them open up over here. We're going to look into them. The issue is that we can't get blinded by these big bounces, because what this really is just to bounce off of the lows. Okay? We saw a big sell-off. Now we're seeing a little bit of a bounce. And the question is, are we going to continue to see the bounce? In my opinion, yeah, I do think that we will continue, but it's going to take a little bit of time. We'll probably chop a little bit more. This is what the S&P 500 looks like. So the total sell-off from roughly the 19th all the way into the 28th was about 5%. The bounce so far is about 2%. In order for us to flip bullish, we want to take out some previous highs. More so, we want to flip the midline at about roughly 6,011. So that would take us upwards of about roughly 3%. Again, it's not a crazy push here. And even from our current level on the S&P 500, it's about a 0.98% move. So almost 1%. That could definitely happen. The big thing is that we want to start clearing some support. We want to start to actually get a nice push to the upside. So far, though, on the S&P 500, even going off of this recent sell-off, okay, what are we seeing here? I just want to test you guys. What are we seeing? Well, if we go off of the previous sell-off, which happened all the way into the middle of January, we could see possibly a bullish structure forming, which means we have a low followed by a higher low. And we technically actually have higher highs. I mean, this was an all-time high on the S&P 500 from the 19th. So this was just one big sell-off, reset in sentiment. If we could take out the highs going back to December, and then we could take out the highs from January, obviously we will take out the highs from February, right? So we will create a new all-time high, aka a higher high. Structure is still very bullish for the S&P 500. So overall, structure-wise, nothing broke. Everything looks pretty good. We'll see how things look next week, obviously, because markets are paused over the weekend. The NASDAQ is also in a very similar state, but the problem here is that we actually have a lower low going off of those January lows. So far, this thing did an 8.15% drop to the downside. We're up about 2.32% off of those lows. Nothing too crazy just yet. We might have a little bit more pain in terms of the NASDAQ to, go through. Again, the focus here is flipping highs. This one, we really want to just flip the November high. So this midline essentially is what we want to flip at around 21,183. We have some work to do here, but like I said, we should start to see a little bit of a bounce next week. We'll have to readdress, these charts going into next week and see where we're at. Dow Jones, again, if we're looking at the S&P 500 and kind of comparing it to the Dow, very similar overall state. We have these nice lows down here. Now we have some higher lows, significantly higher lows, by the way. The only issue is that we actually don't have a higher high going off of this recent impulse. In fact, we're actually at major resistance here. So we want to clear this 45K level to create a higher high and actually an all-time high on the Dow Jones. When that does happen, the markets will start to really flip bullish. Right now, down about 4.33% total. Right now, we're also bouncing back about 1.68%. Again, we'll have to readdress what these charts look like next week. Big thing here for the Dow, we want to really kind of flip the previous highs from the middle of November. So we would be looking at about roughly 44.5K on the Dow. Again, we'll address this next week, but for the most part, stocks don't look too bad. The only one that really does look bad is the NASDAQ 100, which so far, again, could we be just wicking down to major, demand zones going back to like the middle of November? Sure, 100%. So this is basically a lot of support that we are really kind of holding on to. The close on the daily, by the way, looks pretty solid here, where the actual candle body closed at. Very strong, very good. And overall, structure-wise, not too bearish. It's still pretty neutral right now. Same with the S&P and the Dow. Even though we have those higher lows, we want to see higher highs in order to actually confirm bullish structure. In terms of Bitcoin, though, again, it wasn't too bad of a day. Bouncing back off the lows, sub 80K. We're at about 84,300, almost 400 right now. This is what the chart looks like for Bitcoin on the daily. I know on the weekly it looks a little bit different. If we go to like the weekly for an example, did things change drastically? Not really. I mean, honestly, if we really look at this, we have about almost 2 days until the weekly candle closes Sunday, about a day and 22 hours at the time that I'm recording this. So far, structure-wise, looks very good. Nice wick down into the CME gap, completely filled that CME gap, bouncing off of the trend line pretty significantly here. Not a crazy impulsive move, because if we actually look at the total sell-off, and we'll just go off of, I guess we'll go off of the high here, right? We'll go off of that high from roughly the 21st all the way down to this bottom was about a 21.33% move. If we go off of the top, this is a 28.4% push to the downside. Pretty significant, by the way, especially if you guys are newcomers to the space to experience that. It's definitely scary. I get it. I understand. And the bounce here is about 7.87, almost an 8% bounce. So far, not too bad, but we want to see a little bit more price action. Also, if we look at the daily and if we go off of that fair value gap going all the way back to roughly the beginning of November, so far we're actually holding within the fair value gap, which is pretty good to see. There's a lot of demand there and there's a lot of support that could technically be formed here. So we're definitely going to watch this closely to see what happens next. In my opinion, just like I did say in yesterday's video, we're probably gonna chop here a little bit to the upside, bounce off of the trend line once again, and then finally get that breakout. Wouldn't surprise me at all. We've seen it in the past as well. In fact, we've actually seen it back here in August into September. So we'll definitely watch, wait and see what happens here. But so far, not too bad in terms of price action. Structure-wise, still pretty bullish in terms of the macro. Lower time frame structure definitely looks rough and it looks bearish. But higher time frames, if we really kind of zoom out, say for so like on the 3-day or even on like the weekly, guys, Bitcoin is still pretty good right now. Nothing has changed in my opinion. We're still pretty good. We're still on, par with the bull run. Until we actually lose this entire trend, I wouldn't be too concerned at all. And the macro structure still looks very good on Bitcoin. The only one that I'm really looking at in a bearish light is actually Ethereum. So Ethereum has been actually very, very bearish so far this alt season, or I shouldn't even say alt season because we actually haven't even experienced it yet. But this bull run has been horrible for Ethereum. I mean, even if we go back to the 2022 lows, this is what Ethereum has done so far. It's horrible. In fact, everything has outperformed Ethereum technically this cycle. We have yet to actually break over the March highs, as you guys can see. A lot of resistance, definitely a lot of resistance here on this chart. So we need to clear that. I am watching the weekly because right now Ethereum has completely lost the weekly trend. We have, again, about a day and 22 hours to actually fix this. Ethereum needs to pump about roughly 15+% in order to actually regain this trend. I will be very, very surprised to see Ethereum regain this trend. Now, you might say, well, Nick, doesn't that mean that Ethereum is technically bearish and that, we're going to go significantly lower? Not exactly, right? Because again, if we zoom out on like the daily, for an example, okay, and if we're getting rid of this trend line completely and we're forgetting about the trend, and I know that that's, usually the trend is your friend, right? We know that. The main thing that I'm actually looking at is what Ethereum is doing. More so on a little bit of a zoomed out stage. Let me actually go to the 3-day just so that it's easier for you guys to actually see this. Because again, I've been sharing with you guys this chart for a while. So if we actually look at Ethereum, this is where most of the support actually is, going all the way back to 2023. This is where we actually ranged on before that nice move into March of 2024. So far, we have maintained this. And the big thing that I'm actually looking at is on an extended view, what is Ethereum actually doing here? It's just chopping, right? And I've been saying this for a while now. This is what Ethereum is doing. It's doing this while we wait for something to happen on Bitcoin dominance. We're still waiting for this thing to sell off. We're still waiting for this thing to sell off in a big way while Bitcoin actually takes that big move to the upside. And I know that you guys are getting impatient. I get that we're, getting frustrated here because, we started to see some very good price action across the board for a lot of altcoins, and now they're taking away the gains. This is also why I say take profits on the way up. But regardless of that, I don't think that we have seen alt season just yet. We are still watching Bitcoin closely, and we're still watching Bitcoin dominance closely. In my opinion, Ethereum is ready to have that nice move to the upside. We're just waiting for it to actually happen, and this sucks, right? We hate to wait for this long because, again, Ethereum has just been ranging since those highs back in March for over 354 days without any significant move to the upside and a break over those previous highs. This is also why I say that a lot of altcoins are still kind of just ranging. XRP is a little bit different, right? We had that nice move to the upside. This is what XRP looks like currently on the chart. We're just chopping in a downtrend. And this is where things kind of get painful because we have significant chops to the downside. And it could continue. We could go significantly lower. We can go down to like 170 again. We could basically double bottom around that wick from the third. It would not surprise me if we did. There's also a significant fair value gap that, could be filled here around like 162 to 176. But again, this is determined on what Bitcoin is going to do next. Are we going to see another, significant move to the downside? It's definitely possible. With Bitcoin dominance being as high as it is, it would definitely cause XRP to reach those mid like 160, 170 levels. A lot of these altcoins, though, right now are bouncing back. XLM is bouncing back to the upside. Ondo is bouncing back to the upside. HBAR is bouncing back to the upside. But the problem here, because again, if we go to the daily, XLM is up about 5.95%, not too bad of a bounce. Ondo right now on the daily, 7.2%. HBAR about 10.73%. But the issue here is if we look at the 1 year, you can clearly see that this is just a bounce on the lower time frames from that significant low that we just hit. Until we actually start to clear those previous highs, I'm not going to be extremely excited about, positive price action, because even right now, in terms of the top 100, a lot of these top gainers, like for example, Celestia, So Celestia is up about 20% today, but this is what the 1 month and the 1 year looks like. This thing is down significantly going back to like the March 2024 highs. So even though, yeah, we're starting to see some nice positive gains here, it's actually not macro positive gains. That's why I've always said, like, although, yeah, we could see some nice gains across the board for altcoins, we want to see positive, profits. We want to see actual profits until we clear those March highs from 2024 on a lot of these charts, or even break out of the previous highs that we did achieve. For example, XRP is a good example of this. I'm not going to be that excited about the, altcoins bouncing back. Right now, we're just seeing a bounce. Could it be a dead cat bounce? It definitely could be. We have to address this more going into like Monday, because that's when we will start to see a little bit more of a clearer picture. But so far, things do look pretty good going off of the previous price action. We'll have to see what happens, like I said, next week. But, we do have some positive overall structure on the S&P 500. I like the fact that we are creating some higher lows here. We want to see some higher highs. And the same goes for the Dow Jones. I mean, the Dow Jones looks pretty good structurally. I don't think that this is bearish. It's neutral. It's neutral until we start to see those highs being taken out. But so far, things do look pretty good. We'll definitely have to address things more. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out.